Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first webinar in discussion with our various insurance regulators. My name is Christine Rodrigues, and I'm a partner at Bowman's, practicing from our Johannesburg office. I'm an insurance regulatory lawyer. I just want to run through a couple of housekeeping matters, which will hopefully enhance this webinar experience for all of you. As participants, you are all automatically muted, but the chat functionality will be enabled. So should you have any queries or questions, you're welcome to put those through. Later on, should we have sufficient time, we will put forward some of the questions to Mr. Thakoor. I would like to thank those participants that have already sent through questions. Mr. Thakoor will be discussing those. I would just like to present to you our facilitator for today, Ms. Shali Kokatia, who is a partner in our Mauritian office. She focuses on financial services regulatory issues, as well as does various corporate transactions. She actually advised on the first crowdfunding funding platform. In addition, she's worked on extremely exciting transactions, such as the recent Liberty and Standard Bank transaction. And then we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Thakoor, Chief Executive of the Financial Services Commission, who is very well versed in terms of financial regulation. He has more than 25 years experience in the central banking. He has a master's degree from Polytech as well as an MBA, and quite impressively, he actually removed from the FATF grey list Mauritius off the grey list as of October 2021. Shani will be discussing with Mr. Thakoor various issues that we've picked up in terms of recent transactions, such as Section 23 under the Financial Services Act, as to when you need to actually obtain approval or notify the FSC in terms of any direct or indirect changes in shareholding. And Mr. Thakoor will also just be talking about how he managed to get Mauritius off the grey list, which is important in terms of going forward. It's an exciting jurisdiction in order for financial services groups to conduct business from. Enjoy the session, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, Christine, for these kind introductions. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, to all those present on this webinar. Mr. Thakoor, on behalf of all the Bowman's team, I would like to thank you for agreeing to participate in this initiative. I would also like to extend a big thank you to all your team for helping us organize this event. This is very much appreciated. Mr. Thakoor, the Mauritius IFC has a well-developed insurance sector, regulated and supervised by the Financial Services Commission, the FSC, under the Insurance Act 2005. As per the latest statistics published by the FSC, the insurance industry in Mauritius comprises of 23 companies and contributes to 3.1% of the GDP. To what would you, as a regulator of this insurance sector, owe the success of this industry?
Thank you, Shadni. First, let me wish good afternoon or good morning to all the participants, depending on where you are, and also thank Bowman's for giving us the opportunity to share our views as regulators in this conversation. And I hope that we will be able to be to the level to actually answer to the questions of your participants today. So with respect to the success of the insurance sector, while there are a number of factors, I would put, if it in order, our people in the contribution to the success, then our legislation, and at the same time, or perhaps later, our jurisdiction and the way we are evolving. People will be surprised that Mauritius has a very long history of financial services. When I say long history, it's almost 2 centuries. The first bank was set up in Mauritius as far back as in 1813. And in those days, the Port Louis used to be a financial hub where people transited for various trade purposes. And insurance actually was provided, the first one in 1855. So basically the service was here, the people were here, and we are here. And there were a number of regulations throughout these 1959 regulations, all this culminating towards the Insurance Act, which came into force. So looking at that process, we find that the insurance here, the Act, and prescribes or gives the legal certainty for what people need to do. It provides for a number of products within the insurance. We have we license or supervise the insurance, reinsurance companies, brokers, salesperson, claims professional, all in the range or involved in the insurance business. And at the same time, we are also a member of the international alignment with AIS. So meaning that where we have the act itself, we have also best practice coming from the AIAS is the International Association of Insurance Supervisors. And as a member, therefore, we ensure that we are aligned to the best practices, the governance, and we have also what it takes for a good insurance business to operate. And as I mentioned, our act talks about the best practice, the corporate governance, the early warning systems, as well as the protection of the policyholders. And in terms of the quality of service, and coming back to the people, the expert knowledge is very important. You can have the best of the legislation, but the way you give it the service as a service to people is very important. And we do have here a pool of professional people who are able to therefore deliver this service. And it is perhaps quite anecdotal, but I would like to mention that we are one of the countries where on a yearly basis, the best agents are rewarded or given some awards simply to show the level of the service orientation that we give to the insurance industry. And the last element of the success, I would put it to actually the capability or the endeavor of our insurance companies to adopt the digital stride in terms of what's going on. If we look into what are the disruptive trends, insurance is perhaps one of which we see will be positively impacted. And we have already here players where we are able to give digital service, onboarding, excuse me, and as well as services which have gone fully digital.
Okay. You mentioned quality of service of our market players. What are the common market practices that you as a regulator have identified that insurance intermediaries or brokers have been participating that is contrary to the spirit of the insurance regulation of Mauritius, and which you would want them to refrain from conducting?
This is a tricky one because we are here to ensure that there should not be any malpractice. We are here to ensure that the spirit of the insurance regulation, which is here to prevent malpractice, protect the end consumers of the financial services. I would say in a nutshell that these things, perhaps there are some case-to-case basis, but we do have enough safeguards within the country, within us as the regulators. Also, we have got the financial ombudsman for the financial services who take care of what we call the illegal side of the practice, which we are here to take care. But perhaps one area where I would like to stress upon, which is not actually illegal, but as you mentioned, it is a practice, is with respect to claims for the motor insurance,
Right.
where one claim or the interdependentness of a claim within the players leads to a situation of gridlock.
Okay.
Basically, let us say if there are 3 persons involved, I owe you, you owe the person C, and the person C owes me. Everybody has perhaps the enough information to share and to say that I'm going to settle. But before I settle, say, okay, hold on, Mr. C owes me. So until he pays me, I cannot pay you.
Okay.
So this is the situation of we call a typical gridlock in any settlement system. And this has caused a lot of prejudice to the end consumers, because currently there are millions of rupees locked in this process.
Right.
So some of the insurance companies might be going towards it with respect to, let us say, knowingly, because these gridlocks take a long time to resolve, because these are case-to-case basis. But we as a regulator, we are coming forward with a computer-based system to try to solve it. We are setting up in the course of this year, hopefully early next year, we should be up and ready. A system called the National Insurance Claims Database, which will be the system where the motor claims would be automatically logged, and the system will carry out what we call a multilateral netting to ensure that at the end of the day, these gridlocks are resolved, and it would lead to more liquidity into the system and more people settling. That's perhaps we hope this is going to address it. This is one of the practices that I'd like to share with you.
Okay. According to the World Bank report, the current regulatory framework has many strong elements, including reliance on solvency monitoring, prudent asset diversification, international accounting standards, and actuarial methods. Indeed, in a bid to be at par with international standards, we have seen amendments to the Insurance Act, Private Pensions Act, and also the introduction of the Captive Insurance Act. In the recent budget, the Honorable Minister of Finance announced the revamping of the FSC's framework to enable reinsurance companies to set up operations in Mauritius. What would you say is the future of the insurance regulation in Mauritius, and what amendments can we expect to see in the next 2 to 5 years?
I think going forward in the next 2 to 5 years, there will be, if I can use the word, wholesale transformation in the insurance landscape. What you've seen so far, especially if these are amendments to the Insurance Act, they're perhaps piecemeal, trying to address a few issues, etc. But we have a vision, and we are going into a number of changes. And you mentioned the captive insurance. We have at least a gamut of products coming in that will also have an impact on the insurance. I mentioned the National Insurance Claims Database, which is the tool through which a very important concept that we will introduce is the bonus malus system. It is a system whereby the good drivers are rewarded and the bad drivers are penalized. And this leads to inculcation of a culture of responsible driving.
Right.
We believe that rather than any form of fines, any form of oppression, such a culture where actually you are just rewarded, your premiums might go down because you are a responsible driver. People are aware that in normal circumstances, what happens is that the good drivers have to pay basically for those losses caused by the bad drivers. So this is going to bring quite a paradigm shift in the way motor insurance will be conducted, and will be one of our flagship systems coming in. We hope perhaps going forward that we can introduce therefore more types of claims in it. It will start with motor insurance, but I don't see any reason why medical claims and other types of online systems cannot be plugged into. Because the beauty of the system is that it is a system which will connect the banking world and the insurance world with respect to claims and settlement. And we would also be online connected with the Mauritius Police as well as the National Land Transport Authority. So it is just going to be an exciting but good new project. Then we will have, if I take it in some of the orders that you mentioned, we will be having the launch of the insurance wrapper, which is basically a structured investment-linked insurance business. And these insurance wrappers, for clarification, is an investment concept combining the protection of a life insurance policy with wealth management and succession planning in accordance with legal and tax rules applicable to the subscribers' countries of residence. So this product has the marked characteristics of being secured as the portfolio is registered in the name of the insurer and held by the custodian bank, which secures assets in the event of the insurer's bankruptcy. And we are now currently in the process of amending the Insurance Act and regulations accordingly. You spoke about the captive insurance. We are now already working on third captive insurance, third-party captive insurance. And this is the business of undertaking liability with respect to the risks of a parent entity with the ownership, this 50%. And we are in the process of amending the regulatory framework and adding what we call the different classes of third-party captive insurance in it. We will be having, I think it's very close to launching the licensing and regulation of third-party administrators, or which call the TPAs. So basically, these are service providers, independent, but who do actually the back office processing, claims processing of insurance companies, and they were up to now outside our purview, and we are going forward to license them, so bring them into the actual supervisory purview and to ensure basically good delivery and the I would say and protection of the consumers. You mentioned the reinsurance framework, and that's also going to have a major change in the way insurance products will be provided. We didn't have specific regulations or specific workouts for reinsurance, and since it was announced in the budget, we'll go very fast on it to come up with a separate framework for reinsurance business. And here we are aiming therefore domiciliation of reinsurance, large reinsurance business in Mauritius, with respect to those specific framework, which are quite different from normal insurance. And of course, going with respect to their type of business for lightweight CGD, etc., where there is a need, we are going to amend those changes. On the accounting side, you touched upon it. IFRS 17 is coming, and the International Accounting Standards Board has issued the final version, and it will set out the principles for the recognitions, measurement, and presentation, as well as disclosure of the insurance contracts. We at the Commission, we are also in the process of now engaging one consultant who's going to guide us with the regulator, but also we have a number of insurance companies who have already embarked in it, so that we have got this proper transfer of knowledge and the proper way to implement IFRS 17. The last but not least, we are currently again working with the World Bank towards what we call getting an equivalence with respect to our insurance, with respect to major players around in the region. Some of the players, if we take, for instance, South Africa, they're already on the roadmap towards the Solvency 2.0, but they are not there. They're perhaps in between. We have also the target, but I'm not saying that we are going to there. We have got a roadmap to start changing things. It will apply in the first instance for the reinsurance business, and then perhaps we'll see how it rolls out to the other form. And on this project, the World Bank is on our side. Okay. So these are the big changes,
right, indeed,
that will come into this.
So these are very quite fascinating and exciting changes that we can look forward to. With its modern regulatory framework, as you mentioned, and experts in the actuarial insurance and brokerage services, Mauritius is well established to serve both a local and international regional markets. We are positioned as an important platform between Asia, the Middle East, and Africa for investment into the African continent. Mauritius has one of the highest penetration ratios in Africa and is well positioned to further develop the insurance sector. The insurance market offers customers a comprehensive range of products and solutions and provides financial planning to meet demands and investment goals. What is your advice to foreign players wishing to use Mauritius either as a platform for investment in Africa or who wish to conduct insurance business in Mauritius itself?
On this score, this has been the sell-off of Mauritius as a jurisdiction, whether it is for insurance and for other financial services. We are all aligned on the fact that Mauritius has itself not hidden any ambition to be the gateway to Africa, and where other jurisdictions have got different goals, we have clearly spelled out that first, we are Africa, and we are very bullish on investment in Africa. So looking back into the different trends, we believe, at least, we are the ideal jurisdiction through which investment to Africa can be made. And for that, there are a number of reasons. If you take or focusing on the insurance side of it, first we have to say that we are an IFC of international repute, and that's not deniable. Around the region, there are some IFCs, especially in Africa, but at the time when we started, we are ahead, and we have a niche expertise in terms of these services. We are and that's, I would say very proudly, and in the introduction it was mentioned, we are now an FATF compliant jurisdiction. And that means a lot. It means that some of them have not passed that test. We just went through the FATF, and therefore our systems and controls are here. We are also, I mentioned, a member of the International Association of Insurance Supervisors, meaning that we've got a benchmark in terms of what we were. We are also, but perhaps not directly to the insurance, but we're also a member of the IOSCO, which means that we therefore adhere to those general international best practice principles. And domestically, we are member of the CISNA, which is the Committee of Insurance, Securities and Non-Banking Financial Authorities within the SADC. Being ourselves members of the SADC and the COMESA, so there is nothing which we have left out for Africa. But over and above this, while talking about Mauritius, we need to basically focus on two things. Many things have been said about us being jurisdiction, tax haven, etc., which is not, and by far not our first selling point. Of course, taxation is there. But since we are compliant with the OECD, HHTP, Harmful Tax Practice Forum, mean that we are not a tax haven. First, it is very important. Our forte is our people. This is the only resource that we have. So we are able to speak basically both English and French, which would be able to touch most of Africa. And we have got a wide pool of graduates, professionals, graduated from Mauritius itself, which is a very reputed place for learning, but also high number of people graduated from international universities, whether it is in Europe, in the UK, India, you name it. We have got this power of the workforce. And the other point is, with respect to investors who would come to Mauritius and then go into Africa, what we provide is protection of that investment through the investment protocol that we have signed with a number of countries, where perhaps daring to go directly might be an issue, but going through Mauritius, these investments are protected. Not to talk about those DTAs that have been signed. And last point is the number of free trade agreements, especially you mentioned Asia. So we have got, and the first ever with China, with India, and ourselves being with Africa.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Thakoor, you mentioned the FATF earlier. You were instrumental in addressing the strategic deficiencies identified by the FATF. These efforts have been instrumental for Mauritius to exit the FATF grey list in October 2021. For a while, foreign players may have refrained from using Mauritius as a platform for investment, given Mauritius' grey listing. Could you please let the attendees know all the measures and controls that the FSC has in place to ensure that Mauritius will continue to remain off the grey list? Practically, how does the FSC ensure compliance with global anti-corruption and anti-money and money laundering legal requirements?
If you allow me, I will take this part perhaps at the national level.
Okay.
Let me explain some structures within Mauritius. Is that, if you are aware, at the FATF or during the FATF process, we were had some deficiencies to address, and it went broader than the normal financial services. It went to what we call the DNFBPs, designated non-professionals, which means that it is not the normal way of now looking at money laundering. It's a broader aspect.
Yes.
And FSC was one of the players, together with a number of law enforcement agencies, where we watched this national battle. And one of the things that we basically demonstrated and on which we exited was to demonstrate the sustainability of our process. Meaning, as you're mentioning, why should people believe that we're not getting there again? So the first thing that I would say that the work that we did, relentless work that we did to exit the FATF was not a one-off effort. It was not learning to pass an exam. It was lifelong learning. And for that purpose, and for the benefit of everybody, I would like to share that in Mauritius, the first thing that we did and the first thing that we sold was a very high-level political commitment to ensure that the FATF procedures are put in place. And for that purpose, it started top-down from the Prime Minister in person chairing an interministerial committee to ensure that all agencies are coordinated and they have got things to deliver. From that end, there were a number of amendments made to the law, meaning that whatever actions that we take are now enshrined in the law. And therefore, there is an obligation for us to continue to do that. That's why I mentioned it was not a one-off exercise, but rather an exercise whereby everything is now sustainable. Okay. So we have within the acts and the different acts, a core group. A core group means that it is just sitting below the interministerial committee to coordinate basically two works. One is that of the National Committee on AML-CFT. And the core group itself is in our FIAMLA, which is the Act for the Anti-Money Laundering. We have got the Inter-Agency Coordinating Committee, which is therefore we at the FSC, the Bank of Mauritius, we have got the Register of Associations, the Register of Corporations, etc. All these, we have signed an MOU to work together, to share information. That was also one of the sides that FATF said that there should be coordination. So basically, what we have done, we have taken line by line the recommendation and then transported them into our institutions, into legally binding actions. Last but not least, we have got the National Sanctions Committee. You spoke about international, and the National Sanctions Committee is the arm which looks into whatever is the level of the United Nations sanction list. We ensure that within 24 hours, such information is propagated and actions are taken if ever people find themselves in it. Just to complete in terms of your actions, coming to the institutional level, if I take the Financial Services Commission, we have issued a number of tools, our AML handbooks, our guidelines on targeted financial sanctions or independent audit. We have a risk-based approach for AML CFT on-site supervision. And to do that, basically, we start gathering information. So there's no less than 2,000 questionnaires that are reviewed off-site, which leads to our risk-based model. And we carry out yearly AML CFT on-site inspections to the tune of 350 plus. And that's a big task. We have the adequate resources to do that. And what is good, and that's the positive news at the end, is that since we started this, these inspections, we've seen the compliance rate rising from 65% at the beginning to now above 80 and closing, which means that the culture of compliance is now being instilled.
Definitely. I think Christine mentioned this earlier in her introduction. One of the matters we advise on M&A deals is when we have a presence in Mauritius and that particular Mauritian entity not only holds a GBL, but also holds an activity license, is the requirement to seek the approval of the FSC or notify the FSC under the Financial Services Act when there's a change in beneficial ownership in that particular entity. Could you perhaps share some insight as to the expectations of the FSC when there is a transfer of shares at the level of a parent entity, but which does not cause any change in control at the level of a Mauritian entity? Do you foresee any relaxation of these rules, especially for listed companies who are not listed on the Mauritian Stock Exchange, but on the foreign securities exchange?
Okay. There are two parts in your question. Let us take it very step by step. Mentioned about some change in the parent company, but our actual licensees are not affected.
Yes.
But that only basically one side of looking at things. A change in the parent will necessarily affect the local one, even here if the shareholders, etc., are not. We look into perhaps the spirit behind the law. So we have the duty to ensure who are the ultimate beneficial owners. So even in these cases, there is a need to request. There is a need to request the authorization of the commission, where at least we will have our say. It could be an international company.
Yes.
And we have, I will not mention the names, but we had recent a few large takeovers. And if you take that whole spirit, even across jurisdiction, there were individual authorizations or no objections coming to leading to the end game.
Yes.
So if the fact that there is no direct change in the domestic one doesn't necessarily lead to the fact that there would not be any change. We have a duty to know the UBOs. So that's the spirit about it. So hope it answers the first part of it. And the second part is when it comes to companies listed or the those who are
not listed in Mauritius,
and not necessarily licensed by us. But then there is this rule of about 5%. And again, in the first case, 5%, it doesn't have any material change. It no need to report, but at least to inform us about it.
Yes.
And when there is a significant change in control, then those reporting issuers, let us say, it is not necessarily now in terms of the percentage, but that change in shareholding has had an impact on the way the overall business is. Then they have to request us for to inform us and what is this, even if it is listed, and this change in shareholding is through those listed companies. And we will adopt basically the same approach when it comes to the entities which are listed on foreign exchanges. But whenever these have got an impact on the overall structure and therefore later leading to management.
So we are still complying with the 5% threshold in a way.
Yes, the 5%
is still there. So even for entities who are not listed, who are listed on the foreign securities. Okay. One of the rising themes nowadays throughout the world is sustainable growth. Investors are gearing up more and more towards environment, social, and governance, commonly known as the ESG friendly investments. As a reputable and region-leading IFC, Mauritius has taken a step in the right direction with the issuance of a guide by the Bank of Mauritius for sustainable bonds in Mauritius, and subsequently the guidelines issued by the FSC in December 2021 on corporate and green bonds. How do you, as a regulator, foresee the ESG integration in the insurance industry and the role of the insurance industry in sustainable development? Are we moving towards sustainable insurance?
Do we have any choice?
I believe not.
I I take it from the wholesale changes at international level. We had the COP26.
Right.
Everything has now is climate centric or protection of the environment oriented.
Mhm.
And if you just take at the level of our FSC, we should at the last annual report our strategic plan for the next 3 years. And we already had therefore mentioned for the ESG objectives aligned with the United Nations ESG goals. So it is in our strategic plan to come up with ESG related, ESG
Initiatives.
compliant products. And for that purpose, we have already started actions. You did mention the Bank of Mauritius, which has got a climate change center over there, and where we are members. Therefore, we are working with the regulator. No need to have two regulators doing the same thing.
Okay.
We are aligned. And the green bonds were issued as a result of the first level of work, where the bonds are more for non-bank issuers. That's why they are on the green. And we have already put a number of controls over there when it comes to avoiding greenwashing, all these related kinds of structures. Now, what we are also working is the fact that how can our jurisdiction be recognized as being one which has got either some ratings, either some way to broadcast that we are an ESG compliant jurisdiction in terms of the investment perhaps coming in and investment of the destination of what's going on. And now relating it with the insurance sector is intrinsically related to the whole of the climate change. At the end of the day, they have to insure.
Yes.
There is this insurance coming in. There is this fact that they have to come up and they have to give basically their blessing with respect to all those products. So there would be significant impact actually in the way insurance is being carried out. And that's why our membership with the within the Bank of Mauritius Climate Change is that we are the regulators of the insurers. And the fact that, for instance, life insurance may reduce losses, increase losses due to increase in the mortality rate.
Yes.
Climate change can have the effect. Climate change can have bearing straight away on people on the crops, etc.
Okay.
We already have in Mauritius some banks not providing finance to non-environment friendly projects. I'm talking about coal, etc.
Yes.
So basically, it is not a question of are we moving? It's a question that the whole motion has already started. And we have to go very fast on it. Safe to say, just in 2 lines, that apart from us, we and the Bank of Mauritius, we have already the National Committee of Corporate Governance, which I'm a board member, and it has already issued the scorecard. And if you look at it very carefully, they already have a number of parameters, considerations for the green side of services.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. Thakoor, for these insights. We are pleased to know that we have received considerable interest in this webinar. I believe, Christine, if you may correct me, but we have a representative of the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of South Africa and also a representative of South African Insurance Association amongst the attendees today. We also have a very good representation of the private sector, and there have been some questions which have been submitted for your attention, if I may. One of the questions we received seeks your opinion on the Twin Peaks supervised model. Considering that you also have central banking experience, would you consider adopting the South African Twin Peaks model? Or what are the advantages or disadvantages of the Twin Peaks model versus the model prevailing in Mauritius?
I would have wished you didn't have asked me this question because exactly for my central banking experience. Whether it is Twin Peak, whether it is our model,
Yeah.
or whether it is any model, the baseline for me is something that works.
Mm.
I say it in most of my interventions. Whenever there is any change, let us try to see what is the problem we are trying to solve. We have in our current model supervision as well as licensing being vested, that is with respect to the conduct as well as with respect to the prudential being vested with one regulator for all non-banking and with another regulator for all banking. The most important thing is in any jurisdiction, the fact that there should not be any arbitrage of people getting outside the net. And I believe that if we take for us, we have basically closed the net in terms of everything. When there are this model of one regulator looking only at the conduct, another one on the prudential, I'm not saying that it's not a good models. It is that these shareable, given that actually the whole conduct or the business is a continuum. People don't say that today I'm going to do something of conduct, tomorrow I'm going to do something with respect to prudential. It's the fact that we try to delineate. Of course, the boundaries are quite blurred. And while some countries have adopted and they are finding it correct to do it, for me, we have a model which works in Mauritius and which has not posed any problem. There have been debates for changing, for going single regulator, for going on these model, conduct, not conduct, etc. The fact that we are here, our jurisdiction, the way we do things, it is working. And not to forget that we have got a very good bridge, a very good understanding between the two regulators, sitting at the both extremes of the spectrum of financial services, one at the bank regulator, one at the Financial Services Commission. We have our joint coordinating committee, which meets on a minimum quarterly basis, so it could meet more frequently. And we have this first deputy governor of the Bank of Mauritius, who is the chairman of the Financial Services Commission.
Yes, indeed.
Meaning that actually this exchange and the bonding is there. And we do also carry out joint inspections. So at the end of the day, I would say that for our purpose, I don't see any reason to change something which is working.
Definitely. Thank you. A second question we received is, with more focus on an Africa-centric region and integration, do regulators across Africa envisage having a set of unifying regulations? Well, obviously subject to the local laws.
But this is actually the dream, no, of the whole of the SADC region. You mentioned my central bank experience, been working with the SADC payment system project since about 20 years, since the SADC was set up. This set up a number of objectives, and those objectives were to have harmonization of the laws, because it was discovered that in many instances, whether it is a banking practice, a payment practice, they didn't have the same notion with the same word. That was very important.
Okay.
And the SADC at a few points came with model laws. There is a model central banking law, there is a model payment system law, there is perhaps model insurance laws, etc. All these models try to bring or put what we call at least the basic things that should be in the law. I do recall in meetings where specificities have been taken on board. However, those models laws will be there for us to have at least a benchmark of things to do, not to do. They will not be able to basically replace the actual jurisdiction level specificity. Let us take for us. We have a country with the French law and the British common law.
Yes.
We are quite unique, yet we exist, yet we cannot give a one type of our law for the one. We've got in the SADC region, the Portuguese country, that is Mozambique and Angola. They might have something very different. And then we've got the French, and then we've got the English countries.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the point is to have model laws that make sure most common problems are there, and therefore these institutions sit there to ensure that we have harmonization, and there is what we call cross-jurisdiction arbitrage, not arbitrage, cross-jurisdiction work
Synergy,
that are carried out, and people are able to refer to some of the
like a benchmark,
laws to ensure that in case of problems, this is the place where you can have your problem sorted out.
Resolution. Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Thakoor. I think we have about 5 minutes left. If there are any questions on the Q&A.
Hi, Shani. It looks like as if all the questions that have been wanting to be posed have already been posed.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Thakoor. This has been a wonderful experience. And once again, on behalf of all the Women's team, thank you for participating in this initiative.
It was a pleasure and also a privilege for the Financial Services Commission to be part of this first of the series.
Yes, indeed.
And we are therefore very happy to have hosted it, and would also be looking forward for future participation in such types of initiatives, because they do add value to the overall exchange of information.
Definitely.
And for the overall recognition of what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thakoor. Thank you, Shani. And just to remind everyone, if you would like to download this webinar, go to the bowmanslaw.com website. The link will be provided on the website. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.